Hello, and welcome to Improbable Things. I'm J. Grace Pennington, and this is my podcast where I share 6 improbable thoughts before breakfast, which consists of 6 thoughts about reading, writing, or storytelling in some form or fashion. So, took another week or 2 off, as you may have noticed, but I do have 6 things to share with you today, and I am ready to get started. So number 1, I have been working extra hard on finishing up edits on my current work in progress Firmament Progenitor. And basically it was going very slow because life has just been a little crazy and I would normally work on it in the afternoons and that had worked well for a long time, but then all of a sudden lately it was just really dragging. Like I was just having trouble getting to it in the afternoons. I was tired. I had other things I really wanted to do. It just wasn't really, it was going very slowly basically. So I had originally planned to have it finished at the end of May, and clearly it's still not done. And then also was not, at that rate, it was not going to be done by the end of June either, but I really wanted to get it done. And then at the end of the month, we're going out of town for a few days, and I really wanted to not have to worry about it while we're out of town. So I thought if I can push myself and get it finished and sent to my editor, and then he can have it while we're out of town, that would be ideal. But again, it just wasn't happening. So I decided, all right, so for this last week of the month, I can handle getting up another extra hour earlier and just using that hour to really focus and work on it. And so I've been doing that, and it's definitely been going much faster. I don't think I'll have any problem wrapping it up in the next few days before the end of the month. So that's really good. And I'll talk a little bit more later about that, but I have found that if something's really not working, then just looking and seeing, okay, well, how can I change it? How can I do something different? Instead of trying to force it. Sometimes the answer for me has been to just change up the routine, look how I can make it happen in a different way. And so right now this seems to be working well. So we'll see from here, but I should be able to finish it up, and then I'll be able to start getting it on Vella and get it out to y'all sometime this summer. And I'm, again, really excited. I was able to fix the few things that kind of bugged me about it, I believe, at least to me. It seems like it's very solid, and I just really can't wait to hear what people think. Number 2, still on the subject of Progenitor, I did get to see some early artwork. So on each cover in the series, there is one person and then there's one object that you see sort of behind them. It might be a ship. In one case, it was a castle. In another case, this sort of recharging sort of chair for an android. There's just always something. So in this case, my artist sent me some work for the object that's going to be on the cover. And it looked amazing, as always. And then he also sent me a few reference photos and things for the person who's going to be on the cover, which is someone we have not seen yet. So that was also very exciting, and I really can't wait to see the finished work. He always does such an amazing job, and I'm really excited to share that with y'all as well. Number 3, one reason actually that I was kind of having trouble motivating myself to get to my writing in the afternoons is that I've just been in a mood lately where, and this happens from time to time, usually, a couple times during the year, I'll just suddenly start feeling like there is so much to read. Like there's so many books I want to read, and the number just keeps increasing much faster than I can read them. Like I already own hundreds of books that I've never read, and then I keep getting books in the library, I keep taking book recommendations from other people, I keep buying new books, and there's just so many that I really, really want to read, and it's very exciting. And then I just start getting in this mood where I just want to read more and faster. And so I have been spending more time reading the past couple weeks in particular, and it's been awesome. I've read some really great books, but it was making me, again, just want to change up my routine a little, because sometimes things shift a little bit. But I've been doing a ton of reading, and I really love getting in those moods. Like, I love reading a lot. I love discovering good books. Obviously, I love reading, very important to me. And so I like it when that happens. And yeah, I just really need to get a move on, because my goodness, how am I ever going to get all of it read? So number 4, we've been doing this curriculum for the girls' school called 5 in a Row, where it has a list of really, really great, really awesome children's books. We did this, my family did this when I was a kid. So it has this list of children's books, and you will read one of the books every day during the week, and then do some kind of lesson based off of it, and it covers various subjects, So each book you'll have like some sort of social studies lesson, and some sort of literature lesson, and some sort of math lesson even. Like, it has all these categories. And it's really, really a great way to connect some of the things you're learning to a story. And so this past week, in the book we read, one of our lessons was to learn to spot and identify some of the important parts of a good story. So again, this is for young kids, so it was pretty basic, but you have the setup of characters, you have some kind of conflict, obviously, you have some kind of climax where there's some kind of showdown, basically. Really, all those just very basic parts of a story. So I went through that with my girls, and then they were supposed to write their own, which of course they dictated and I wrote it, because one of them who's doing the project can't write and the other can, but it's very, very slow. So, but it was super sweet. They really, young as they are, picked up on it and were able to make up these little stories. One of them made up a story about a unicorn who ended up receiving a huge mailbox full of candy for all the unicorns to share, but then one unicorn decided to keep it all for herself, and the heroine unicorn reminded her that they were supposed to share it, and that sharing was better. And so then the other one offered to make some more candy for everyone to share, and so they all gobbled it up, and they were all very happy. So that was one story. And then one was about a little kitten whose mother had told her she could go outside and play in the snow if she didn't lose her mittens, but then she did lose them. So the mother and kitten worked together to find the mittens, and then they found them, and they were able to play outside in the snow together and live happily ever after. So obviously very simple stories, but they did contain all those elements of the setup, some sort of inciting incident, something bad happening and needing to be resolved. It just was fun to see how much you can distill these basic ideas down, and how easily even little kids were able to catch on to what those are. So I really enjoyed that lesson a lot, and just getting to expose them to these things is just so much fun. Number 5 on my currently reading, one thing that I am trying to do as I am in this massive reading mode is to get to the books I've been meaning to get to, because a lot of times I'm adding so many new books where sometimes it's like, oh, this is a book club book, or oh, this is, a parenting book that I really feel I need to read right now. And all that's fine. I'm still doing that. But I really want to. There's books that have been like, I've been wanting to read or meaning to read for years and just haven't seemed to get around to. I'm like, I want to get to those. I want to get to the things that are important to me. So for years, I've been meaning to read the Hunger Games books and just have never done it. So I thought, I own the first one because I bought it at a used bookstore to read. And so I was like, I'll just read it. Now, I have seen the first 2 movies a long time ago, but I never saw the last couple movies because the first 2 were extremely upsetting to me. Like, it's rough because I'm like, since I just finished the first book a few days ago, and because I can't visualize what I read, I kind of want to go back and watch the movie. But it was so upsetting to me the last time I watched it, when it originally came out. Like, I literally couldn't stop crying for hours. I was shaking. It was crazy strong reaction. And then I had the exact same reaction to watching the second one. So at that point I was done. But I knew reading can be different. So I still have planned to read them. And I will say, I mean, obviously the book and the series, very disturbing, like extremely disturbing, but I was much better to handle it and appreciate it in book form. So I mean, I was riveted. I read it in a few days. I've got the second one on hold from the library and the third. So now I'm trying to decide whether I should revisit the movie. Like, maybe if I watch it with my husband, he can hold my hand, or maybe I just shouldn't. But anyway, all that to say, reading The Hunger Games, and I feel weird. I feel like I can't say I enjoyed the first one because, again, it's so disturbing and awful, the things that happen in the story. And also I will say I am bugged by the trend. I don't know if it's a trend anymore or not, but it certainly was at the time that Hunger Games came out. The first person present tense trend, where it just, I don't know, especially in young adult fiction, it was very common. But I've read adult fiction also, and it just bugs me. I don't really know why. I feel like it is designed to make you feel more of an immediacy and intimacy with the characters, but it just, I don't know, it makes me feel more, it feels so unnatural to me. I think it makes me feel a little more disconnected. So anyway, it takes a while to get used to when I'm reading a book, and it's just still, even when I get used to it, not my favorite stylistic choice. But other than that, like, I enjoyed getting pulled into the story so completely. And I found, again, other than not loving the present tense thing, I found her writing style to be really good. Like, the way that characters unfold, and that you feel like they can surprise you, just kind of like real people. I enjoyed that a lot. And just the turns of the plot, like, it really kept moving really well. There was good setups and payoffs. Like, it was just a very solid story, and very strong themes, obviously, of oppression and victory, and what it means to stand up for something and compromise. Just, like, obviously a lot of big things going on. And so that I enjoyed all of that a lot, and am going to be reading the next two. And so while I did remember the first movie pretty well, so I did know basically all the things that were going to happen. However, for some reason, even though I saw the second movie, I really barely remember it at all. I remember a couple of, like, things, like the basic gist of it, but I don't remember most of it. And I have never seen the last two, so I don't know how the whole thing ends at all. So that should really be interesting to finally get to that point and see how it all wraps up. So anyway, I'll try to update y'all more as I read the rest of the stories. So number 6, I'm going to talk a little bit more, start off talking about this podcast itself. I realize it feels like it's lately kind of turned into more of a bi-weekly podcast, if that's how you say every 2 weeks. I always get confused. Does bi-weekly mean twice a week or every 2 weeks? Or I think it can mean both, but what I'm saying is it's turned into a every 2 weeks kind of podcast. And I could do it every week like I used to. I absolutely could. But the fact is that we prioritize what we really want to prioritize. And right now, the podcast is falling a bit further below things that I am prioritizing more highly. And I've talked about this a lot in the past, that it's very important to me to not say that I can't do something when that's really not true. I could get up at 5:30 every Thursday morning and do the podcast for y'all. I absolutely could do that. I could do that every day, but I don't want to. And it's a time where, for me, making, some of that early morning time to write, or some of those early morning times to get more sleep, has become more important to me than doing the podcast every single week. And so it's just always very important to me to make conscious decisions about my priorities, and not just let them, not just let things take over or creep in without me making those choices, without me deciding what is most important to me. And so I want to not just let the podcast fade away and do more reading, but stop and say, hey, I am deciding that right now, reading and finishing my book and getting extra sleep, whatever the case may be, that I'm deciding these things are more important to me than doing the podcast every single week. And that's okay. But to me, it's just so important to not be a victim to just what you happen to do, but rather to decide and to use accurate language for me to say, I don't want to do this every week right now. I just don't want to. And again, I've talked about this before. Sometimes that's fine. Like in this case, it's fine. There's no reason I have to do this. I like talking with all of y'all, but there's no reason that I have to do this. Sometimes I'll get to that point where I'm saying, I don't want to do this. And it's like, well, okay, but it's something I still have to do. So now I'm going to have to rearrange some things and make a way for it to happen. Or sometimes I'll find, priorities start to slide around and I look at them and I find, no, I really don't want to do that. I really want to press on and do the thing that's getting kind of left behind. So looking at it can have different, outcomes depending on what it is. But just to me, it is very important to look at it and to say, here's what's very important to me right now. I want to harness this, extra passion for reading I have right now and get some of these things read. That is very important to me. I'm also in this place right now where I'm very tired. So I want to be able to take a nap in the afternoon. Sometimes I think that's important to me and to my family. And so that might mean I'm going to, use some time earlier in the morning to do some writing so I can take an afternoon nap. Like it changes. Like that's why I have to keep looking at it, keep examining it, keep saying what's important to me right now, what's most important right now. Right now, one thing that's true is that I have a 3-year-old and there are extra special challenges that can come along with parenting a 3-year-old, and that is taking a lot more of my energy and my time, and that's okay. That's very important. And one thing I've tried to teach my girls, and I usually use this when they're having conflict, is if they're, screaming at each other over a toy, I'll come in and say, hey, what's more important, the toy or your relationship with your sister? And they'll be like, your relationship with your sister,